brothers and sisters and fellow travelers on this little spaceship Earth. I'm going to begin today in a pretty different way than usual. I hadn't planned this till about 10 minutes ago. I didn't plan it. Today is a special day at PIMC in terms of it's our volunteer fair. And I'm going to talk about what really matters, what I understand really matters. And emotion close to the surface. As I understand it, what really matters is that we care about each other. And meditation is turning inward to get to know ourselves. Is essential. It's not I think it's like air if we want to live well. But I don't subscribe to the view that our task is to I no longer subscribe to the view. I did for years. In fact, for at least 15 years, my goal was to get enlightened and get the hell out of here. Because life was so painful and the depression was so deep and struggles were so awful. I just wanted to meditate and get off the boat. I wanted to go off in a puff of smoke somewhere and not hurt anymore. Because the hurting is extreme, is it not? We wear wonderful costumes. Carl Jung called them the persona. We go through the world and we do a lot of pretending. I've got it together. When our heart is broken or when we're desperately afraid of something. When we avoid the reality that there's a time stamp on us. So we come together as community in order to support each other and ourselves in facing reality and in learning how to be loving toward ourselves and loving toward each other. I think that's what really matters. Funny, this comes to mind. It's a heresy. I don't really much believe in online community. I think it can be useful. We can connect with people around information. And some good things can happen. But to not have community where we actually can reach out and touch each other, I think is a desperate world of isolation. So we have here a community where we can, in fact, reach out and touch each other. That's pretty special. I got a text this morning from one of our Sangha sisters. Jeannie Mooneyham. I told her what I was going to talk about today, and she said, community is rare and precious in today's age of doing everything online. We become less connected. Let me turn this down a bit. We become less connected to others. We are busy, yet volunteering connects us. We have 168 hours a week or 672 hours a month. The gift of 1 hour to all members of the community is vital and benefits those who walk through the doors in ways we will never know. It's so important. sending you lots of energy this morning. We're building something here. We're creating a community of connection and love focused on this deep practice of setting ourselves free. I'm going to talk about that. This music is by Jennifer Berzon. It's interesting playing it. I know that the YouTube announcement will come. You have infringed upon copyright laws, but Jennifer has said it's okay. So I want to invite you to do a practice with me that I've done on retreats for 25 years. I've done it once or twice here at the center. Once at my wedding. And first up, before I tell you what it is, I'm going to say if this is the wrong moment for this, for you, when someone comes to ask you up, simply put your hand over your heart and stay seated. And do not fall prey to the tyranny of the group. As in all spiritual life, you are the expert on you. Okay? So if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. It's not the magic experience to enlightenment. It's one more beautiful thing we can do as human beings. So there's as much permission as I can give you to just stay seated. In a few moments, I'm going to get up. I'll help 3 or 4 people up. I invite you to help 3 or 4 more people up until we're all standing. And then for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, I invite you to meet another person. Left hand up, right hand down. I like to do it with my eyes down, and then I look up. And then do the insight meditation practice of seeing. Be aware that you're seeing. And then say the words simply, I see you. I see you. This is plagiarized from the Blue people of the, what's the movie? Avatar. And they got their culture from the Bushmen of the Kalahari, who say when they greet one another, I see you coming from afar, and are you hungry? Pretty sensible. So again, please do not feel any tyranny to do this. And this is the practice of insight meditation as relationship. We do this all the time. We pick up our phone, it's I hear you. We meet someone on the bus, this is the practice of mindfulness in relationship. And there's no way to do it wrong. Thank you, Jennifer, for this. May all beings be happy.
the holy waters. The sacred ground, the air we breathe, the holy waters raining down on me. Be I walk on sacred ground, this holy ground, this holy ground. Yeah, this sacred ground. The air we inside the prison at the border. Everywhere, be safe. May we all be free everywhere. Be free. Inside the prison gates, at the borderline. Be free. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall be free.
the Buddha was faced as an ordinary human being with the same dilemmas that we face. Notable among them, birth, sickness, old age, decay, and death. As well as all the other usual disappointments. It wasn't possible for him to accept anybody else's word for how things really are or how one can be free or truly happy. He had to find out for himself, incontrovertibly, undeniably. And he did. And then he taught what he'd learned and helped tens of thousands of people, millions over the years, have the same experience he did. So we're not here to worship the Buddha. We're here to follow his example in his discovery that it is through awareness and self-examination that we become happier and happier and become free. It's not arcane, it's not even difficult. It's just hard to remember to be awake. And being awake is as close as, please notice that your body is touching the chair or the cushion or the floor. Be aware of contact. Notice that there are some sounds that come to the ear. And in the realm of mind, notice that there are thoughts that think themselves into being. Sometimes there's a lot of thoughts and we call it restlessness and agitation or worry or obsession. Sometimes the mind is quiet and focused and we call that concentration. Sometimes the mind gets all caught up in wanting something, desire, or disliking or hating something, hatred, aversion. These are not mistakes or because we're doing something wrong, it's because it's the nature of the territory. If you go into the mountains in Oregon, you come across Douglas fir trees. You go into a human mind and you run into greed, hatred, restlessness, dullness, and doubt. In order to cultivate awareness and concentration, and in fact all the other very useful and wholesome mental capacities, can do the very simple practice of coming home to the sensations of breathing. There was a moment not so long ago when there was a gasping first breath of an infant, and there will be a moment not so far from now where there will be the exhalation, the end of this journey through a lifetime. In between, we can use this coming and going of the breath as a kind of sanity point. And please don't start a war with the mind. War doesn't work. It doesn't work outside, and it certainly doesn't work inside. Mindful presence is infinitely more powerful than anything else that happens in the mind. You'll notice in a moment of being awake, aware, a thought that a moment before was completely hypnotizing you suddenly is an object of observation. You may fall right back into the same trance, but for a moment there was awareness. So let's sit together and practice being fully alive, aware of the breath coming and going when we can, noticing how much of the time we're lost in trances, fantasies, memories, past, future. This is the human condition. But the human condition also includes a waking up. And once this waking up starts, there's no stopping it. So please come home to the reality of this moment, to your sitting, to the wandering mind. And perhaps to remember the good company you're in. We support one another as awakening occurs in all of us. There are lots of tools and strategies we can use to assist us. From the insight meditation world, we have noting, to observe the breath and have the mind to make little notes, rising, rising, falling, falling, observing the chest and abdomen. When the mind is wandering, to note wandering, returning. We can practice with the intention of observing the very beginning moment of the breath and the last moment of the breath. The moment when breathing in stops and breathing out begins. If there tends to be some particular worry, to call it what it is, worrying mind. If there's self-hatred, to note it as self-hatred. Coming back to breathing, to the sensations of life, which only exist now in the present moment. We can intentionally observe the quality of mood which is present. Mood colors everything. And we can ask ourselves, or ask, the question can be posed, is this mood me or mine? Is this obsessive thought me or mine? Or is it, in the Buddha's words, empty phenomena rolling on like weather? Meditation is not an activity that we undertake for a few minutes a day. It in fact is a way of life. It's sort of the way of life, of being alive and knowing it. So as we come to the end of this time of sitting formally, I invite you to notice the quality of mind which is present, objectively. And please become aware now of the prompted intention, prompted because it comes from the outside, to let your eyes open. And then in a little while, let that operationalize itself and notice how the eyelids, it takes work to open the eyelids. And when you peel them back, notice how seeing begins. Seeing. Seeing in full awareness, knowing that seeing is happening. And then check into your body. After sitting like this, it often wants to stretch. So notice what the first stretch would be, and then allow that to operationalize itself. But stay present. I would like to acknowledge and welcome those of you that are joining us on the internet. Thanks for tuning in. So from here, our itinerary includes Jim Dalton doing some movement, and then some announcements from Kate. And then I'll be giving a talk about what really matters and community. And I invite you to stay for the talk. You may well have important things to do, but this might be really important. You know, the coffee shop could be waiting. It probably is. It is, I think. But I invite you to stay. And then after that, we have the practice of conscious schmoozing. Being together with like-minded people as we take in the bounty of this exquisite earth. Come in. You're welcome. So, Mr. Jim, would you like to take the helm? Please.
Okay. That's new. I've never stood next to this before. All right. So I'm in touch with my feet. I'm in touch with my breath. and I noticed in my mailbox that Robert was going to talk about what matters most today. So I thought, what should I do with movement and what matters most? There was lots of things that I could address with that question. What matters most in my family, in my job, in my political life, and all kinds of stuff. But what matters most in my practice is being in touch with my body and getting grounded. So getting in touch with my feet is first. Now, is that because it's most important, or is it just first? That's a good question, but I'm not going to answer that. Okay, settling in, my knees have the ability to soften, and being aware of that soft knee, and then that rising knee, and softening, and rising. Are the knees most important, or the feet most important? What kind of question is this, most important? I don't like this question. If I sink and then let my arms rise, and then sink again, I'll just pause and wonder what was most important. What matters most? The intention, the focus, awareness. So let's sink again. Let the arms rise. But then instead of sinking again, we'll just bring them back, bring the hands back, and just feel what it's like to have your elbows out away from your body. And then lifting one hand, doesn't make any difference which one, just one hand, and focus on it. We just finished a practice of, I see you. What happens when you lift your hand and see your hand? And then turn your head away and drop your hand. Then lift the other hand and turn. I see you. And then drop. And then drop both hands. So what matters most is now. For a moment it was the hand, for a moment it was the knee, for a moment it was the feet. But the principle is now. So let's sink again and rise. Are we attached to all the phases of this movement? Or do they just pass, one after the other, in a flow? We lift. Which moment is more important than the next, or the past? It's a difficult question, and it's not comfortable, and it's not relevant. What's happening now? So what matters most in this movement is the flexibility of my knees and the flexibility of my shoulders. I'm not really attached to that, but I'm very aware of it. And this next one, I'll open and notice what's happening with my chest, my rib cage, my spine, my shoulder blades. What's most important? What matters most is the interconnection, how they all know how to work together. All these elements in my body. When I say the word open, they all know what space is. That means moving away. How do they know that? When did they learn that? If I say raise overhead and paint a rainbow, how does the sound rainbow translate into all these movements? Is one more important than the other? Does one matter more or most? Or does this moment, stretching up, matter the most right now and then releasing? It's how easy it is to let go in certain moments of flow. It doesn't exactly work this way in my emotional life. When I feel empowered to make certain connections, my favorite cup, my favorite shirt, my favorite website. It's now midnight and I'm still attached. Open to the side, push and pull. What aspect of this gesture matters most? It's the interconnection. There's actually a relationship between each aspect of the gesture and the next. It's like the arms, the hands, the hips, the feet, the eyes are all saying, I see you, I know where you are in relation to this gesture. Then I pause, and I have no attachment to just what happened. What's next? I'm curious. What's next is this. It was so easy to let go of the other move. This is delightful, I hope. For those of you that it's not delightful, change it. Let's move across. Noticing the weight shift. That's a different movement. One leg has most of the weight. The shoulder's opening a different way now. And it knew, as soon as I said reach across, it knew how to do that, knows how to do that with no hesitation. If I say gaze at the moon, those of you that have been here before know exactly what I'm going to do. The others just watch for a second. Oh, I see. Ah, that's how it goes. There's just this immediate knowing. That's what matters most. The intelligence of the body. The way the body can ground us in this moment. We can rely on the intelligence of the body. It's sort of a refuge. Press across. Although it's an impermanent refuge. I have students who can't do this easily. Their sense of space and time is diminishing with age. So this is a challenge for some. So then the most important thing now is my gratitude. I can lift my arms and take this position of cloud hands, moving across my midline to the other corner. I know how to drop one hand and lift the other, and then move across. And I focus on the palm of my hand, my nervous system relaxes. I don't have to take in all the people, the colors, the forms, the shapes beyond. It's just a haze. What's important is right in the center of my attention. And when the mind has something to lock into like that, there's a delight. It's not monkey mind for a second. Right here and now, I'm not worrying about next week or that stupid conversation yesterday or whatever. I let go and just follow this palm. And what matters most now is getting the heck out of here so Kate can come in. All right, so drop your arms. I didn't get through the end of the routine. I failed. Why do I enjoy that so much? Where's Miss Kate? She's coming. All right. Thank you very much. Next Saturday, I'm going to be doing a workshop from 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock here. If you would like to join us, you're welcome to come do some Qigong and some sitting.
Are you all tangled up?
Tied up. Hold that, please. Does that help? That's
No,
worse.
You have to go through the middle. You can both do it if you want. What did we just do? Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you. How many of you are new today? Wow, cool. We're having a good time now. Welcome. My name is Kate. I actually wore the badge. And the other one is my I Volunteer badge. So if any of you are currently volunteering and you don't have your badge on, there'll be one out in the lobby for you. We have the volunteer fair today, and that's kind of a fancy name for the fact that we're going to have myself and some other volunteers available to answer your questions if you have any interest in volunteering, or if you volunteer, it'd be really nice to have you just stay for just a few minutes after the Dharma talk. So if other people have questions about what that's like, that would be really cool. My goal is to try to fill in some blanks that we have. You'll see them, they're yellow. Oh, you probably have seen the chart as you came in. So we want to fill in the blanks, and we want to get a group of people, hopefully either overall or in each category, who can serve as backup. Because when we have volunteers assigned to do certain things, we all want to be able to take a day off now and then, even if it's our responsibility. So it's nice to have a backup crew trained and ready to step in. And that way we don't take advantage of the kindness of our few very committed volunteers who do the lion's share of the work. And also it's absolutely a wonderful way, oh, Robert's bringing the chart in. It's absolutely a wonderful way to get to know one another and to get to be more deeply involved in the community. For those of you who do not know, I used to be a business analyst, and occasionally it sneaks out on things like charts and stuff. Look at this. It's the procession. How fun. This is like the nuts and bolts of love. How we execute on it. It's a spreadsheet. It's what I do.
She does love spreadsheets.
I do love spreadsheets. Busted. Anyway, this is fun. This is the regular volunteering schedule and some new needs. But we also have work days now and then. And the work days are particularly fun because that's when all of us come together and really have a good time and love one another and do Dharma through work practice, which is wonderful. It's great fun. Another thing that's happening that I'm very excited about is we have actually, with the help of Steve Ripple, who's another volunteer, have set up a new listserv. So those of you who have struggled with Yahoo, it's going away. Yes. And the sign up, you still have to sign up because it's a personal group, but you sign up and it's on our list server. So you don't have to sign up for Yahoo. You just go in and sign up. So if you're currently on our community listserv, you will be getting a notice of how to do that. And I'm going to get that set up next week. It's all ready for people to sign up. And so all we need to do is turn the key. So I will invite you to do that. And if you're not currently a member of the listserv, I'll get a new sign-up sheet for that next week and get it ready for you. And it should be much simpler. This is the place where we can talk to one another. So if you have an item of interest that you want to share with people and they can respond and you can have a conversation, that's the purpose of this. We also have an email list that is nothing but formal announcements, generally from me. So you can choose which way you want to communicate. But it's all part of being part of the PIMC community. So I encourage you to do that. We have lots of stuff going on. Barney is doing an evening to help us understand the Tao Te Ching, which is wonderful. It would be really informative on the 23rd. Absolutely. Here, let me get the microphone.
Good morning. This Friday, I'll be talking about the Tao. It's from 7 to 8:30. And I want you to show up like, have you seen the movie The Wedding Crashers? Show up like that. Come in hot. And this is what I'm going to leave you with so that you can create your self-invitation, the one that's not sent out by the groom or the bride. I'm going to leave you with 2 bookends that will create that space within you so you can write your own invitation. The first one is, first there was 1, then there was 2, and then there was. That's the first bookend. And the second bookend is a person who never changes themselves, but is overcome by it, changes the world in an eternal way. Hope to see you this Friday.
Thank you, Barney. I started reading the Tao when I was about 11, and I have found it opened doors for me, and that path continued, and here we are. It's like it's different pieces of wisdom. Wonderful offering. Jim, you're doing Qigong this weekend? 24th. It's 24th, I think. Doug has his new Basics of Mindfulness class starting this week. And Robert's got a retreat at Hollyhock starting on October 2nd, and another one at Brighton Bush on October 30th. I just pushed the button 5 minutes ago on the Taking Refuge retreat, and so it is now out there and ready for you to sign up. Or it will be in like 2.5 minutes. Christine and Gregory are going to be starting their Noble Eightfold Path class again, October 18th. And I really want to highlight the fact that we're doing a community meeting on October 23rd. I know that's a ways out, but please make time for it. We really feel strongly about wanting to bring you guys into the conversation about what's happening at PIMC. We've got bunches of new teachers now. We have lots of things to think about, and we really would like to have your input and to have you come and join us for that. So I think that's it. Thank you so much for listening, and welcome to all of you who are new. Oh, thank you. There's a sign-up sheet at the back of the room. Thank you, Gregory.
This is a transformer. It looks like a little wooden box, but it converts money into Dharma. So I invite you to celebrate and experience great joy in converting some of your extra lattes or something into Dharma to support PIMC. This will go to the back of the room after. Ooh. And the box, the treasure chest over there, which we're gathering clothing and anything warm, useful items for the homeless in Portland, of whom there are more and more, contains half of my closet. And it was a not so peaceful encounter with my wife, going through the closet together. That looked good in the 60s, Robert. Or, oh, is that for a costume party? Actually, there are several shirts in there from Bali that I bought a long time ago. They're ikat, that's beautiful. The fabric itself is an art piece, but the shirts are antique. But I managed to get rid of them. And in so doing, I found my coat. So I came dressed up today, but it's very hot, so I'm going to take it off. But I look pretty spiffy, don't I? It looks like I'm looking for work. It's warm though. God, it's wool. I felt great during and after. Thank you. It was wonderful to unload that, but also to think that people were going to wear them. Especially somehow the warm ones seemed very particularly relevant to me. Yeah. I try to not repeat poems for a little while, no more than once every second week. But this one is so pertinent and I think it's really useful in this moment again. For many of you, it'll be a first time. It's by Jennifer Wellwood. It's called The Dakini Speaks. My friends, let's grow up. Let's stop pretending we don't know the deal here, or if we truly haven't noticed, let's wake up and notice. Look, everything that can be lost will be lost. Everything that can be lost will be lost. It's simple. How could we have missed it for so long? Let's grieve our losses fully like ripe human beings, but please, let's not be so shocked by them. Let's not act so betrayed as though life has broken her secret promise to us. Impermanence is life's only promise to us, and she keeps it with ruthless impeccability. To a child, she seems cruel, but she is only wild. And her compassion is exquisitely precise, brilliantly penetrating, luminous with truth. She strips away the unreal to show us the real. This is the true ride. Let's give ourselves to it. Let's stop making deals for a safe passage. There isn't one anyway, and the cost of that is too high. We are not children anymore. The true human adult gives everything for that which cannot be lost. Let us dance the wild dance of no hope. What really matters? I think I already tipped my hand at the beginning. I think that learning to accept and love ourselves, and to accept and love each other, and to act as responsible adults is really what matters. And there's a lot of distraction. And I spent some time with the distractions, and I think it's probably the wrong word. There are a lot of things that can claim our attention and poke our fears and keep us very agitated. And I'm going to read off just a few of them. And I think they're real, and they're worthy of our attention, but what's worthy of our first attention? And I'm going to propose that our own practice and our creating a community of practice in order that we can actually sustain what we have to put up with and what we have to deal with. That this, time for oneself and the building of a community of practice might be our highest priority. This, one's family, one's children. So, before that, the drum. I want the drum. Forgot my prop. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Thus have I heard. The Blessed One, the Buddha, was off teaching somewhere, and while he was gone, Ananda, his cousin and attendant for most of his life, had a great discovery about community. And he said to the Buddha, upon the Buddha's return, "Lord Buddha, I have made a great realization that community is half of the spiritual life." And as the Buddha was wont to do with poor old Ananda, he said, "Say not so, Ananda. Don't be so quick. In fact, community is the entire of the spiritual path." What? Why would that be? Without each other, the forces that would disperse us are overwhelming. A few important issues. Climate change. Storms are getting worse. There are already wars over water. The war in Syria started over water. Politics. Global. The rise of the perversion of Islam that we call radical Islam. Boko Haram. The ongoing struggle between the Palestinians and the Israelis. The immigrant crisis. There are thousands of people on boats right now, rafts, trying to cross the Mediterranean. What? Wars that we're involved in, Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Afghanistan, Turkey's decline out of democracy. I love Turkey. I spent 19 days there a while back. The struggle, the battle potentially over the islands in the South Pacific with China. Nuclear proliferation. Right? You turn on the news, these are just a few of the things we're hitting, right? Nationally. Challenges to women's access to reproductive health services. The decrease in standard of living as the American empire diminishes, right? People are not making as much. We have a presidential election going on which is obscene, I think, the way people are talking. We have fears about the Supreme Court. There are guns. We're awash in guns. I watched a very interesting documentary on the first 6 months of 1 year recently. 32,000 people a year die in the United States from gunshot. 88 a day. Many of them are children. Battles over the transgender issue, LGBTQ issues, job loss due to globalization. Racism, around the world, racism is a massive problem. And we have the Black Lives Matter movement taking seriously the effects of racism. Financial inequality, stock market volatility, the military-industrial complex running the country, the revolving door between government and multinationals, the NSA listening at this very moment. But then we have sports. And we have the Olympics. We have the very important who wins question. And we spend a lot of time, some of us spend a lot of time very focused on which team is going to win. And then we are deeply unhappy or pleased depending upon which team of gladiators won. Fashion, very important. Which celebrities are getting divorced? Our health. Issues of sickness, obesity, the Zika virus. Are any of these agitating you lately? Relationships. Wanting to be in relationship, wanting to be out of relationship, struggling within relationship. The painful effects of divorce. Children, step families, personal, aging, sickness, decline, death. Am I exercising enough? I should be exercising more. Daily survival, getting the kids to school, getting the kids to do their homework, getting through the traffic, which in Portland is becoming quite LA-like, quite interesting. And there's a lot more, isn't there? Oh, I forgot. Just mental illness, depression. I won't ask because it would probably be embarrassing, but I know there's at least probably a third of us in this room who are taking psychotropic medications. I took antidepressants myself for 10 years, very helpful. There's a lot of struggle, isn't there? And how will we deal with it? Which issues will we become involved with? One thing that's very helpful here at PIMC is that our mission is very clear. Our mission is to create a loving, supportive community that supports individuals in their own practice so that they can encounter what's within them and to become empowered, number one, to wake up themselves, but to live more lovingly with their family and then to make their contribution to the world in whatever way that is. And I'm in such a privileged position. I know the work that some people in this community are doing for various national issues, and it's astounding. We have, and actually everyone that I know in this community, when I hear what they're doing, it's bringing the Dharma into the world. So this little seed that landed here from Burma and Thailand is actually being very prolific. Its fruit is giant. So in the face of all that, and that really is the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? How shall we stay sane? How shall we become more sane? How shall we create in ourselves and support in each other the willingness and ability not only to survive, but to face the grief and trauma of our past, and therefore be able to live more and more fully and with fully being able to contribute to life? I think we do that by creating a context of practice and a context of loving connection. One of my teachers, a woman named Krishna, who was from Calcutta, came to the United States some years ago. She and Munindra, there's one other person with them. Anyway, they made a tour for some months. And I was helping them in teaching a retreat in Canada. And she was speaking to the group, and she got very teary and said the one thing that struck her and that made her so sad was how lonely everybody is. That loneliness is epidemic. And one of the ways I think of PIMC is it's an anti-loneliness spot. That you can actually have friends with whom you can speak honestly and deeply about whatever's important to you, about the things that are really important to you. That we can take off our masks and actually meet. Instability and conflict are not new, incidentally. There was war at the time of the Buddha, such that the city of the Buddha's birth was destroyed, a city of 60,000 people or so, burned to the ground, destroyed, killed, raped, maimed, by a cousin who was sent a commoner rather than a princess bride, and he took umbrage at this. When the Buddha left, he'd been staying with King Bimbisara for 25 years or something for the rainy season. And King Bimbisara's son decided it was time for him to take the throne, so he killed King Bimbisara and kicked out the Buddha. Said, "Go, I'm not interested." And so the Buddha, at age 82 or so, was traveling to some place that he could have refuge, and it was on the way there that he died. So there really wasn't a golden age. We're not in a golden age, except in some ways we have more safety than we've ever had. But everything's really unstable. So what can we do? Well, we can create islands of stability. We can create islands where it's possible to be secure enough to wake up. When Jack Kornfield was a monk in Thailand, he was in what was then a small town called Ubon Ratchathani in eastern Thailand. And it became one of the big American air bases, one of the two, and is now a city of 2.5 million people. But anyway, when he was there, he had friends come through on the way to Hanoi. And they said, what are you doing? You're sitting on your butt here meditating. Why don't you come and work for peace? And he went to Ajahn Chah, who said, there have to be islands of sanity. Because from these islands of sanity comes great goodness. And look what's happened with Jack. He's been a brilliant light. So I think that we are sitting right now in an island of sanity. And so, what's the common denominator in all the craziness in the world? It's the human mind. It's greed, hatred, and delusion. And we can be conditioned, we humans can be conditioned to believe anything. We can believe that someone with a different color of skin is not human. We can believe that someone who has a different altar is really not worthy of care. We can believe that if we were born on one side of a border, we really deserve to have lots and lots, and somebody on the other side doesn't really count. I watched a short video one time actually I've seen two that were very poignant. One was, it's a long time ago for the first one was Northern and Southern Ireland. It showed the families training their children to hate the other side. And I saw a very similar thing about the Israelis and Palestinians. That we're so prone to create us and them. And I don't think my intention certainly is, this is not a community to create us and them. This is an open community with inclusion, and I prefer, when I can, to not speak ill about anyone. If someone's acting really unskillfully, it's because what's manifesting in them is greed, hatred, and ignorance, and there's not enough love and compassion and wisdom to illuminate that for them, so they're acting in ways which are very destructive. It's ignorance. Doesn't mean we wouldn't work to stop someone or support someone, but to not throw anyone out of our hearts, because what if it's true that we actually are all one being? Then there really aren't enemies, there are just misguided people. And of course, I've been a little misguided in my life from time to time when I took greed, hatred, or ignorance to be true. So, I will footnote Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. What is your field of influence? Where do you really have influence? And in my experience, where I really have influence, it's where there are people that I can touch. There's some more. These internet broadcasts have been watched by more than 30,000 people now. So there's some influence there. But where I choose to really invest my time and energy is amongst those that I can actually see and feel. So that's part of creating this little pod. I like to think of it as a pod of love and consciousness. I want to underscore, repeat Kate's invitation to the Refuge Retreat. 15th? That's all. You'll get it in the email soon. And the purpose of that, there's a very traditional practice in Buddhism, which is to take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which is to find the life raft. And the life raft is, I take refuge in being aware, in freedom, in that which doesn't know birth and death. I take refuge in the way things really are and the teachings that lead there. And I take refuge in the community through time of people who have realized this, as well as in the community of practice. These are utterly central in the Buddha's teachings. So to use community as a place of support, one thing we're looking for is a community that shares our values. And some values that pop to mind for us, for what I think of as this place is based on, the importance of examining your own mind. The importance of taking time to actually discover what your mind believes. To notice what your bioelectronic organism feels. What are the emotions? What are the remnants of old trauma that are vibrating in your body? How much fear is there? The cultivation of what in the Buddhist world are called the Brahma Viharas, of love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. Jennifer Berzon's song, "May All Beings Be Happy." To have that as an intention, and then to see how we practice it in the world. Another one very closely associated, generosity. To have generosity be an intentional practice. These are pretty darn powerful values. The practice of inclusion. To really welcome anyone who comes. I tried to welcome those fellows that came and were screaming at us from the streets that we were the Antichrist, but they weren't very welcoming. It's a long time ago now. Another value, working out conflict nonviolently and owning our projections. Also central, a respect for and the practice of the 7 enlightenment factors. Right? These are core Buddhist teachings. And for some of you, they'll be totally new. The notion is that the human mind has filters in it, and that some of those are greed, hatred, and ignorance. And there's others that are incredibly useful, like the love, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. But there's also these factors which lead us to being happier and to waking up, which are, surprise, mindfulness, awareness, followed by, and they're not linear, but followed by curiosity. Being curious about what's happening inside, that litany of outer events, even the very positive ones, they're all consolation prizes and distractions. They don't lead to awakening. Does that make sense? That to be very well versed about this circumstance and that circumstance, and to be committed even to this very important cause, if there isn't so, I want to be awake, and I'm very curious about how this mind is working. It's so easy to create a them. This particular mind here loves to create thems. There's them on the other side of the political spectrum, or there's them, the leader of some country, or them. And to be curious, notice that when that them comes up, there's a tightening, there's a pulling in. It's not us. There's a movement away from the reality, which is that it's just us. Mindfulness, curiosity or investigation, energy, persistence. It's possible, and we need to develop a mind which can stay with the practice of looking inward, even when it gets really painful, or especially when it gets really painful, or especially when it's illuminating some part of oneself that you really would rather project on someone else. Right? That's one of the defenses, ego defense we have, which is if I don't want to accept it's in here, I'll see it out there. Hence the evil empire and so on. The fourth enlightenment factor, joy, delight. To cultivate our meditation practice such that we can suppress the hindrances, greed, hate, restless, sloth, and torpor, doubt, to pause them and experience tremendous joy despite what the world is doing, to be able to be joyful and heart-filled. And then on the other side, the kind of tranquilizing side, we have concentration, to develop a mind which is capable of focusing on one object and staying there. What a relief, if the mind is all busy with worry, to be able to focus on the breath and have the worry stop for a while, or at least diminish. Or if the mind is filled with jealousy or whatever, to be able to concentrate and calm and put concentration and mindfulness together and examine, right, some repetitive neurotic pattern. Let's say self-hatred. Self-hatred is such a common piece of malware for us. And to be able to have a mind which is capable, stable enough, clear enough, concentrated enough, mindful enough to notice, oh, look how this self-hating thought arises spontaneously, and now how there's resistance to that. And, well, it looks like it isn't even me. It's just a program. And then over time, that diminishes. Concentration, tranquility, to develop a mind which is capable of being like a lake, a quiet lake, tranquil. And then equanimity, hang on, awareness just arose, hurrying. Happens all the time. Hurrying as though there was an emergency. Is there an emergency right here? I don't think so. Could be, but there isn't. So it's okay to stop and breathe. I invite you to breathe too. Being in this seat, I can infect you with my sense of hurry. And I'd rather not. So the seventh enlightenment factor is equanimity, which is the ability to be with pleasure and pain, success and failure, praise and disrepute, to be with the polarities which are natural and inevitable in life. Colorful word, the vicissitudes. To be with those vicissitudes and not add to it. To come to meditation and discover, whoa, it's really out to lunch today. It's freaked out. Oh well. Fortunately, I don't have to do anything about it. I can just let it be freaked out and then come back to the breath. Or today it's, whoa, it's really calm, nice. And what we normally do is to say, aha, now I figured it out. This is how I'm going. This is right. This is the good meditation. That's a trap, of course. So instead of that, we learn, oh, this is what the mind is doing. This is how the intimate relationship is today. Oh, this is how it is today. Or the child is doing well, or the child is sick, or the note back from the teacher at school says, child was in class this week. This is good. And then, of course, the challenges can get bigger with the diagnosis is not good, the test is not good, or the test is good. But all the while, we're learning to ride these polarities with the help of the 7 enlightenment factors. Since the time of the Buddha, he knew that we can't do that work alone. We have to have some place where there's number 1, instruction, and number 2, support. Because lots of, or most of the people that we will encounter in our lives are not taking the inner life as their primary concern. Right? The primary concern is money, power, vacations, what the deities, the objects that our culture holds up as the goal, the big house, the big car. I'm just having a nice thought of Ruth Denison, who would be happy to see us sitting here today like this. We purchased the building in January 2004. She wrote the first check for $10,000 about 3 years before that. She wrote the check and said, "Here, start a center." And I went, no idea how to do that. She said, "Too bad." Figure it out. So there's any number of ways to participate in PIMC. If coming to practice every now and then at one of our practice times serves you and that's enough, then that's great. On the other pole, there would be coming and taking classes and becoming really involved and realizing this center belongs to anyone who participates. Nobody owns it. It's a nonprofit. That's why when you make donations to PIMC, you get to write it off as a tax write-off, because our culture values supporting generosity to support organizations which are for the common good. It's a nice piece of economic social engineering, which I approve of, which I think it's a great thing. So, you can contribute financially, very important. You can come and have your voice be heard. At the community meeting, there's going to be opportunity for you to give input on what's working, what's not working. That's always available. There is a suggestion box outside. Also, there will be an opportunity to participate in a process of envisioning. We have a very articulate, actually, what's it called? Long-term plan. But it needs updating. It's a little out of date. So we need your help to make that happen. And mostly, I invite you to help us build a center, which is already a success. About 4 years ago, I was feeling very anxious about the center. And then it struck me, it's never going to arrive. It will always be an organization, a living organization in process. Duh. And I made a pronouncement for myself, which is, we've succeeded. Yay, let's have a round of applause for success. Yay! Phew. There's still a huge to-do list, and there's all that stuff, but we've succeeded already. It's hundreds of people, maybe thousands, have come here and learned meditation, and will continue to do so. So, what we're doing is strengthening and building an organization that will last through time. I said something about my leaving last time, and I have no plans of leaving. I'm here for another 15 years, I hope, at least. But I could not be, right? I could not make it home today. So part of our plan is to build. We have the teacher corps now, a wonderful collection of teachers. Would you raise your hands, you guys? Matt, there. There's 4 of our 7 next generation teachers. We have that, and we have a strong board, and we're moving forward very strongly into fundraising, and there's lots of projects. The place is, as you can hear from Kate's, poor Kate, there's lots happening. And we very much need the participation of those who feel like they want to belong or want to contribute, and who would take delight in it. As Marshall Rosenberg puts it, how do you say it? There's a longer version, but the short version goes, I'm making a request of you. Please fulfill my request, only if you can do it with the delight of a small child feeding a hungry duck. Only if it fulfills a need of yours. And there is a need, I think, which it's scary for us, for many of us. It's the need to belong. And often we've been so wounded in belonging that we've decided, consciously or not, mostly thank you very much, I'm not going to try that again. Right? Got my fingers burned on that, so I'll just do it myself. And I don't think we can do this spiritual journey by ourselves. It's a community project. It's a pod of awakening. You notice how your meditation practice is different when you're in this hall than when you're alone at home, probably. Many people do. I wonder why. Maybe we affect each other. I think we do. What if they ask more of me than I want to give? I hope that never happens. But just like whether you stood up to do the greeting practice or not, it's completely always voluntary. And I encourage strongly, let's not fall into the tyranny of the group. I spoke last week about my experience in the cult early in my teachings. And this is not a cult. And the emphasis is on spiritual liberty rather than spiritual tyranny. So one last thing, part of my notes here. PIMC is a place to relate to others who are taking responsibility for their own thoughts, feelings, and actions, and trying to live as impeccably as possible according to the precepts. And I guess also one of my favorite group questions is, please raise your hand if your being experiences any compulsivity or addiction that you know you'd be healthier or better off without. Take a look around. This is a room full of people who are failing to be pure. What a relief. What a relief. So that means we can actually take off our masks. And we can acknowledge, yeah, I'm struggling with this, because everybody struggles with something. So, we have a few minutes, amazingly enough. And I want to invite anyone who would like to share something or ask a question to take the microphone. I know the microphone's scary for some. Works like this. If you turn it toward you, if you turn it like this, it doesn't work. Please, maybe say names.
My name is Tia. I'm going to hold it close. I would actually like to really extend my gratitude to Robert today for sharing his courageous message this morning of loving kindness and allowing us all the opportunity today to really see each other. And Robert is only human too.
We had a really nice meeting yesterday about the ninth staircase
Hold close.
and how you can get to an instant enlightenment. It's like enlightenment for Americans, like instant coffee of enlightenment, the ninth staircase.
May I have that? Unfortunately, this thing eats bats. Hang on. Eats batteries.
I don't need no stinking microphone.
You don't, but everybody who can't hear you does.
Right. Blazing
Thank you, Cricket. One, two, three. Using the microphone is a gift to those of us in the room who can't hear well, who get the message through the hearing impaired devices, and also to those who join us on the internet.
So this one's called Oh Yeah. I came into this world perfect. I died perfect. Why am I not perfect now? That's the...
Okay. Would you tell them we need another couple of minutes? Anybody else? Maybe not. Oh, maybe not. So I invite you right now to just plop into this moment. Don't even need to change position, just be awake. This is it. To abandon the notion that sitting cross-legged is somehow more spiritual or more awake than exactly how you are right now. Awake is awake. It's just on. And that can be in any mood, any place, anything we're doing. And that's refuge in the Buddha, whenever we wake up. So we're going to have our grand kids extravaganza now. I invite you to also come and join us for tea. And when is this happening? Right after?
Yeah, we're going to set up a table here in the Dharma Hall so you can ask questions about what we have available, and we can all have a chat. And so any hospitality back in the living room.
So, and we're preferring not to have fisticuffs, people fighting over different. If there's too many, we'll work it out nonviolently. All right. So please come have a bite, and that'll be like a few minutes hence, right? Okay. So please make a big circle, and any of you that wish to join us in the kids' inner circle, please do. May I pass? Thank you. I'm going to go in here.
One of our volunteer opportunities is to work with families and work with the children's program, because we have lots of people.
Sparkles. Hello, young people. Did you have fun this morning? Monica's nice, isn't she? Yeah. She's a very skillful teacher. All right. So may I hold your hand? Yep. May I hold your hand? There we go. So we're holding hands in a big circle and a little circle. And this holding hands is one way we can say that I care about you and I like you. So give the hand on your left a little squeeze, and what prayer, what blessing would you like to offer that person? Maybe it's just, I like you. Or you're safe around me. That'd be nice. Same to the person on your right. Give that hand a little squeeze. You too are safe around me. I will never do anything knowingly to hurt you. So, it comes to the moment of song. Is there someone who's prepared to lead us in song? May all beings be happy. You ready to do that, you guys? All right, here we go. May all beings be happy 3 times, and then sadhu 3 times. And talk into the top. Going to share? Oh, 3 of you? May. Ready?
I don't remember.
You know, may all beings be happy. I'll help you. Or maybe you could both do it. I see. Well,
I can't remember.
should I? Why don't I start and you can join me? Oh.
How about on the count of 3 we all start? How about that?
Ready?
All
Beings be happy.
May
All beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That was beautiful. And now, the ancient practice from the time of the Buddha of the blowing out of the candle. Everyone get close. Not yet, not yet, not. We have to be patient. This is the practice of patience. Are we all being patient? Isn't it neat to feel like you want to do something but you can't yet? 1, 2, 3, blow. Yes! We did it again. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you to those of you who joined us on the internet. And do come and have a little conscious connecting and schmoozing and volunteering. Thank you.